First time chat. Hey, just curious. My MP charge is at like 151%. It's effectively the same as 100%, right? Correct. That is how it works because it only works in 100% intervals. So if you're at anywhere from 101 to 198, it still counts as 100. Now, the reason I say 198 is the game kind of has a sort of I don't know, like a mechanic that if you hit 199, it counts as 200%. So if you do it 199, that's 200. But anywhere from 198 to 101 still effectively counts as 100, if that makes sense. Hey, no problem. So, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Appreciate the question and whatnot. Yep, this game is all about hundreds. So the better you can count to 100, the easier this game gets. Alright, so let's blow this up. Spishtar. And then, yeah, he's dead. There's no way he survives. I don't even know why I'm double checking. I already know the map. Spishtar is broken. Relatively new player. I'm starting 2 weeks ago. Still learning. I can understand that. Believe me, I wish I still had the VODs from when I first started. I think I did the math yesterday. It was like 4.5 years ago. So, believe me, when you first start off, it can be a little confusing, a little overwhelming. I'll tell you, the easiest thing is once you start learning to count to, really this whole game is count to 100. That's the entire minigame. If you can count to 100 and then count to 100 3 times in a row, that's the whole game. Once you learn to do that, everything else becomes much easier. You can still play without having to play that way. But I will say that's probably the easiest way of learning. Not too sure what you mean by count to 100. So, what I mean by that is, ultimately, the whole goal of Fate Grand Order. Did you manage to get everyone? I have not gotten Larva Team out. I did get Beast Nero. But let me go back to that question real quick. So what I mean by count to 100 is you understand that 100 is 100% MP charge is how you fire off your Noble Phantasm. That's hopefully you figured that out by now, obviously. So the idea is basically because there's so many mechanics in the game that allow you to charge up your NP gauge, basically learning how to combine all the different ways to charge up to 100 quickly is the easiest way to proceed through this game. Because the more often you Noble Phantasm, the faster you clear content, right? So, basically that's why, for example, kind of an explanation of this, let me just use some easy examples. So, for example, something like this, the generic Buster Comp. Why is the Buster Comp good? Well, with the combination of Koyanskaya and Oberon, if you have a unit that can even charge 30% NP gauge, right? Here's how basically the math works. You get a unit that can charge 30%. You give them a 50% NP battery, or you give them Kaleidoscope. Doesn't matter which. Preferably a 50%. And then basically you would level up their pen skill to give them 20% more. So ideally, turn 1, your first unit, turn 1, no help whatsoever, fires off a Noble Phantasm. Great. You've already cleared the first wave, no thoughts, head empty. Then this is where Buster Comp gets broken. You get one friend on your friends list who has Koyanskaya. She gets 50% charge. So 50% plus 50% gives you another 100%. So now you can NB charge twice in a row. So boom, you're already way ahead of everybody else. And then finally, your third turn. Because of Koyanskaya's skill, your Buster unit gets to use their NP battery again. So 30% from your first unit plus 70% from Oberon, which is also why he's broken, basically allows you to Noble Phantasm 3 turns in a row. That is the glory of Fate Grand Order. That's ultimately the whole minigame to some extent. The moment you learn to just play that minigame of how do I fill up to 100% every turn, that's it. I rambled way too long there. I get the high... Yeah. No, Buster Looping is crazy. That's also why I will say that's kind of the thing about this game. And again, everyone's got slightly different opinions. I will say, technically, from my point of view, not disorganized. Oh, right. No, thanks for the Oh, not a problem. But that's also why, like, the thing with Fate that's really interesting, in my perspective, compared to other gacha games. The thing with Fate is there's several units that are like core units. Like, if you get these core units, you can virtually play anything. So that's one of the things I like about Fate. You can use a lot of different servants and you're not really relegated to playing anything in particular. But the trade-off is, if you don't have certain core units, it makes the game much harder. This is why, for example, Castoria is like one of the best units in the game. Because she enables arts looping. And if you have 2 Castorias, any unit that has an Arts Noble Phantasm that hits multiple units can virtually arts loop. With a few exceptions. But she's almost a requirement for that. Same thing with Koinskaya and Oberon. If you don't have both those pieces, Buster looping is virtually impossible. How do you swap out the second Sport Code? Do you use the suit to put in Oberon? Yes. So you have to use there are 2 suits in the game that allow you to swap. It doesn't really matter which, but I think currently the story one is slightly better, if I remember correctly. I believe the story one is better. But there are 2 suits that can swap in. Either one works. It doesn't really matter which one you use. One's just slightly higher performance, but not by much. Yes, that is the one tragedy of this game, if you want my honest opinion. There's also Stella Man. Yes, the glory of Stella Man. For players who don't know, for new accounts, this is the king right here. There is a reason this bronze unit of mine got leveled to 90. Man is the GOAT. Quick explanation. So, in the beginning, when you're starting your Fate journey, right now, the biggest recommendation I can give that will help your experience a lot better is, if you don't have her, try to get Castoria. Because Castoria does help a lot with your, like, account building, and pretty much opens every arch unit to being broken. That's a good place. If not, again, Zhuje Liang, aka Waver. This is a great beginner unit for a lot of new players. Like, before Castoria and everything else, this was the key. This character got so much use out of me for so long. So, like, for new accounts, Waver's like one of your best friends. I picked Tomomo by mistake. Look. Ultimately, at the end of the day, right? Every unit can be played. Some units just make the game easier by comparison. So, if you picked Tomomo, don't feel bad. Now, granted, it is a little... You can't really loop with Tomomo like you can with, like, a Waver, a Castoria, a Koinskaya. Like, looping is turning the game on easy mode. But, credit to Tomomo, Tomomo is, like, one of the best units for boss fights. If you're running, like, an arts comp for a boss fight, Tomomo, like, does crazy work. So, again, you're trading off that like, yes, right now, your clear times on events might be slower and it sucks in the beginning. But the trade-off is later, for boss fights and for clearing story modes, you're going to have that nice, powerful unit to help you. And if you happen to get something like, for example, where is it? Inventory. Okay, perfect. If, for example, you end up collecting, where is it? Did I not level it? Where is it? I know I walked right past it. Where's my craft essence? Oh, you know what? I know where it is. Yep, it's at the bottom. If you happen to get a copy of Kaleidoscope, that will help a lot of your like early game playthrough. I think you can't get K-Scope anymore. You have to get the new one now. What's the new one called? It's not as good as OG K-Scope. Where's the new one? I know it also has a picture of an old man on it, but I don't remember what the name of it is. Where is it? I'm like losing my mind because I don't remember. Okay, here we go. This helps me remember where things are. Here we go. This one. Great Martial Magic. Get a couple of these. It'll make your life 100% easier as you're playing through. So, just slap these on. Your life gets way easier. They're a little bit rare to get, but if you do happen to even get one of them, just one. How do I get that? Just keep rolling gacha. The one thing about craft essences is you get craft essences every time you roll. So basically, as you keep playing, you're going to get some decent craft essences. Honestly, a lot of the events give really good craft essences. But, like, if you get lucky and you're, like, rolling for a unit and you get this instead, this is virtually as good as a unit in my mind. So, because this is basically, again, 80% MP charge. Now, again, this is worse than Kaleidoscope, which is the original version. But even if you could somehow hit the magic and get super lucky and get 5 versions of K-Scope, your MP charge starts at 100%. So, this is the GOAT. Now again, bear in mind, does the MLB ACE not enhance the effect? It does. Now, it's not exactly like 5 times the effect. So, like, for example, again, MLB and K-Scope only changes it from 80% to 100%. So, there is kind of like some cases you could maybe make the argument that, like, hey, MLBing craft essence isn't as good, maybe, if you want to make that argument, but most of the time it's usually decent. So yeah, it would go to 80% to 100% at max rank, which again, it sounds like a small thing because it's not 1 for 1, but that gameplay difference of having 80% charge to 100% charge is massive. And that's kind of how you have to look at a lot of these like craft essences, is you're not going to get 5 times the effect, but the effect that you are getting changes the gameplay significantly enough that it does actually feel like a monumental difference. Like, it's weird to explain, but that's generally how it goes. So like something like this, I don't even know what the MLB of this does. I think it only buffs like the damage cut or the damage plus. I don't even know. So, again, I'm a bit lost on what to push for next to my account. Is there any way you can provide guidance based on my units if you don't mind? Let me see if I can try to, without looking at your account, let me see if I can provide some suggestions here. Because here's, let me think of this of a nice way. Is there a way I can post a quick screenshot? trying to think. I think you might be able to. If not, I'm gonna be honest. It's been a while since I've streamed, so I'm trying to remember everything I can and can't do. Bum streamer, still learning things. But here's what I can say. Here's what I can say. I'm gonna give you some general advice, and we're gonna see if this maybe helps you. Okay? Because this is usually because most players kind of have the same trap, so I can probably guess where you are. So here's the general rule for Fate Grand Order in general. So if you don't know what to do, here's the general rule of thumb. Like I said, there are certain units that you should try to level up quickly first. Those are units like Waver, Koyanskaya, Merlin, Castoria, basically, even a unit like Nero Bride. So how do you know what's a good unit? The easiest way I can tell you is the following. First units you should always level first is anything that allows you to increase the NP gauge of any other ally. Any unit that can increase the NP gauge of other allies, you should level first. Now, that is a rule of thumb. So if you look at a unit and you don't know what's good, and you want to figure out, okay, what unit is good without looking at a tier list, or maybe you see the tier list, you don't understand why it's good. Any unit that gives NP gauge to other units is like automatically placed on a higher level. You should go ahead and level those units first. That way, not just that unit, but you have flexibility. So you can either say, hey, Nero Bride is going to carry me, so she can buff herself. Fine, no problem. Or you have Nero Bride, she can give 30% to somebody else. So if you have another unit that might be like, let's say your main unit that you really, really love is Altria Pendragon. You can buff Altria with a 30% NP gauge and allow her to keep popping off. So you should always level those units first. So that's why even like you said you picked Tamamo. Tamamo's great. The problem with Tamamo is that her NP gauge is tied to her NP. That's her problem, comparatively to all the other units. That's still good. You should still use Tamamo in the meantime. So you should level her first. So then the question becomes, once that's out of the way, what do you level next? How do you make a choice on who to level next? Here's the fun part. Generally speaking, leveling your favorites is a perfectly fair strategy. Just pick what you like. But let's say you are a meta slave, or maybe not a meta slave, or maybe you're just worried about like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to be strong enough if I only level my favorite units because all my favorite units are all Lancers for some reason. My recommendation at that point is first, generally speaking, 5-star units are probably the way to go. Most 5-star units in the game, base power level is much larger than most other units. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use units like, not Kid Gill. Where is he at? There you go, this Ku. Doesn't mean you can't use Ku. Ku is strong for a 3-star. You could use Medusa if you don't have riders. But basically, the better your 5-star library, go ahead and level those first. But let's say you recognize at a certain point, hey, I've leveled my 5-stars. Now what do I level? Are 3-star units even good? Are 2-star units good? The answer is yes, but now you're going to have to do some research. But the general advice I can give is pick units that are going to give you something you don't currently have. So, for example, Medusa Rider. Medusa Rider is great because she is AoE quick rider. She's AoE quick. So if you don't have a rider that is AoE, then use Medusa. She gives you that option to do that. I need a unit that can survive and kill bosses. Kukulane is a survival unit. His whole shtick is surviving forever. So if you need something to kill bosses, this might be a unit to level up if you don't have other 5-star units to level. But unfortunately, that's when you have to kind of go into the research mode of, what are you missing? Are you missing a caster? Are you missing an assassin? Are you missing a berserker? And just slowly start leveling the units that fill that problem that you have. And then, of course, you may be asking, like, well, how do I know which is good? Also, a cheap pick, Uriel. Yeah, exactly. Is that this one? Yeah, another one, a great example. Let's say right now you have no golden archers. If you have no golden archers, Uriel is a great pick for new accounts who don't have archers. So, but again, that kind of goes back to the initial question of, like, right now I obviously can't see your account. For right now, I'm just going to say no, just because I don't want to deal with, like, not to say that you would, but just don't want to deal with, like, issues, viruses, weird things. But that's a great, like, I think that should help maybe get your thought process going and guiding you in the right direction of, like, how to help your account. Mainly support. I'm pretty happy for my game because I'm using support stuff like Shifu. That's generally how it goes. Honestly, another great unit, if you're lacking supports, the King. God bless Hans Christian Andersen, the GOAT. This is a really great cheap support if you're just starting off on a new account. Because this is waiver, but cheap. And honestly, this is what, like, a lot of the beginning Fate FGO players used in the beginning. Because he provides you that support buff that you need to get your account going. So, something like a waiver. Okay, if I get him from... Yeah. Those are going to be, like, some of your best friends. Like, some of the... Like, if you're looking, like, let's say, like, right now. So, let's say you've leveled up all your, like, golden units. I would say some of the best cheap units you can use, if my memory serves correctly. Who are some of the better ones? Honestly, Jason is not a bad unit. Hans Christian Andersen's a good unit. Cheng Gong is hilarious. He is very good. You may need some practice, and he may not be good for your account right out the gate, but he can be very strong in the right circumstances. Gareth is not a bad Lancer unit for cheap. She's actually pretty decent. Shufu is also good. That's not a bad choice. Ku Caster, I didn't know this. Ku Caster is incredibly strong. I was not aware of this. But he is actually incredibly good. Same thing with Paracelsus. Paracelsus and Ku are both excellent DPS casters. If you need something for boss fights, Asclepius is really good. I was honestly, in the early years, when I was first putting my account, I used a lot of Medusa and Ushiwakamaru. They got used a lot. Actually, is this a costume? Oh, it is a costume. I forgot I even had this costume. How far would you push a unit for someone at my point LB2 skill, append wise before moving on to the next? So, the skill and append. That's actually a good question. So, again, that goes back to the general rule. Let's say right now, because it was the idol event, that's what it was. Because you're good day, because you're still on a new account, you might be limited on resources. Something I would recommend is, and this may seem silly to some people may have different suggestions. My general suggestion is that, let's say you're trying to be super stingy right now. Like, you're just not drowning in resources. You have a limited amount of resources. Any unit that has an MP gauge buff that scales with level those first. Any unit that gives MP gauge, just level it. Any other skill won't. Unless it is your absolute favorite unit and you're using it all the time. Like, right? Like, let's say, like, again, for example, like, let's say I'm just going to I'm going to pick a random character here. Let's say, for example, you have, like, we'll pick her. She's cute. Let's say you have Erish Kagol. If you're using Erish Kagol for all the content regardless of typing, then yeah, maybe go ahead and level up all her skills if you're using her all the time. Otherwise, just go ahead and I would say only level up the skills that increase your MP gauge. Right now, my only Tintin right now is Draco. Perfect, right? That's totally fair and valid. I would say, though, in the beginning, while you're thin on resources, just focus on MP gauge skills. And even like append, I wouldn't even bother with append until you start building up the account. Because right now you may not have the resources to really take advantage of extra points and append skills. Like, it can help, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. Like, you probably aren't going to get an extreme amount of value out of it. So my advice, again, is just focus on MP gauges. Because honestly, like, for a lot of units, yes, there is a difference between the first skill and, like, the max level skill, but it's not enough to really break your experience. Am I correct in saying there's a lottery event coming up very soon? That's a good question. I was literally trying to look at that yesterday, and my memory, and I was like, I could have sworn there could be, but I don't remember which one it is. Because this is the list. I don't think this is lottery. I don't know which one of these is the lottery event. Unless it's summer that's the lottery. Is the Karakuri the lottery event? It might be. Hold on. No, it is. It is the lottery event. I stand corrected. So there you go. So literally, next event is lottery. Is lottery info, or is this a semi lottery? No, it's an infinite lottery. Oh boy, what's in this event? Chains, dragon fangs, bones. Honestly, not a crazy good event for me. That's actually not a great lottery for me. I think, like, the dragon fangs are kind of nice. Is there any way I can prepare for these? Yes. Easy. Here is how you prepare for a lottery event. You ready? The easiest thing in the world you can do. So, I recommend 2 strategies. 1, if you're going to continue playing, keep playing, do all the stuff. But save all of your apples. Try to use as few apples as you can between now and then. The other thing you can do is, if you know for a fact that you are wasting AP or that you can't play Fate Grand Order on a certain day, make sure you log in, convert your extra AP into these blue apples. Because I believe even the new accounts get all the, like, seeds to make blue apples. And make sure you start, like, anytime you're not playing Fate, make blue apples. That's the biggest thing you can do. Other than that, hoard all of your apples. All of them. Don't try not to use your apples if you can help it. Try to stockpile as much as you can. I think for new accounts, they give you, like, a decent bonus of, like, golden apples and stuff, right? So just try to be very stingy with them. Because the idea is that when the event starts, the best way of kind of dealing with it is you're just going to, like, find the best node. So, like, a free quest, I think is what they're called. You're going to pick the free quest that gives the best rewards, and you're just going to literally spam that quest 100 times over. I don't know which one it is for the event yet. We'll get there. If I'm, when it comes around, I'll stream it. We'll talk about it then. But yeah, you're just going to pick the literal best node and spam it and use all your apples on it. That's generally the best way of getting the max value. Yeah, usually the best one is released on the last day, and I've noticed in recent times, what they'll do is they'll have like one that's pretty accessible that like virtually like there'll be like three of them basically. There's one that's like fairly accessible for most accounts. Um, is it quite easy? Like I don't have to worry about my units being too weak. So if you've already completed, like what did you say you completed? Because I think you did say you've completed up to Lost Bell 2. Okay. So for you, what's probably going to be the case is here's how it's probably going to play out. Generally speaking, I've noticed there's roughly about like there's going to be multiple nodes each day. And generally, the way I've noticed a lot of these events have been playing out is there'll be essentially three nodes that will end up being kind of the primary nodes you farm. One is going to be for the like much lower accounts. You're not going to get as much resources as everybody else, but it's so easy that like you'll get a lot of resources for virtually no effort. Then there'll be one that's going to be like more for most accounts. Like most accounts will do this node. It'll be little bit more challenging. It'll be more tailored to people's 3-turn comps, and it'll basically check like, hey, have you been playing a long time? That's going to be the one that a lot of players do. Then there'll be a third node. The third node is like generally a lot more tailored to very like specific comps. Like you can't just run a generic 3-turn clear comp and farm it. You'll need to run something a little bit more specific. So those comps, so like that's when things get tricky and you're gonna have to like you're probably not gonna be able to do that third one. And again, a lot of people may not even do the third one. A lot of them may just be lazy instead of a comp for like the second difficulty that is like, hey, most people's 3-turn clear comps can do. And then there will probably be a node that's like, hey, if you don't have 3-turn clear comps, come farm this node. It's easy enough. You'll get not as many resources, but it'll be good enough for your newer account. You'll get a lot of goodies. That's usually how it plays out. And there's technically even nodes less than that, but generally speaking, that's what I've kind of noticed they've been trying, and it seems to work. But there's kind of like 3 tiers of difficulty. So there will be a difficulty node where it won't be the max resources, but easy enough for you to farm and like get a bunch of goodies for your early level account. There will be something for you. Understood. Thank you. I'll leave for tier 2. Maybe try my hand the harder one if I can. Yeah. Do not expect to clear the hardest difficulty node. Because usually the hardest difficulty nodes, like, again, require very annoying specific setups. They are a pain in the rear. It's like, I know, like, some of the past ones they've done, they'll do, like, 3 garbage minions, a unit with, like, half a million HP, and then the last node will have, like, 1,000,000 HP and, like, 500,000 HP. And it's like, what the heck is this garbage? Or it'll be like, no, it'll be more like, what is it? 3 easy units, 800,000, 1,000,000, and a 500,000. And it's like, what is this crap? All right.